I kind of start these calls off the same way. I don't see why we shouldn't start this call off this way. Why did you book this call, and what essentially are you looking to get out of this?
Okay. First of all, I was trying to learning JavaScript for a little while, like almost 3 years, but I was unable to. But I like it somehow. I tried to switch it to another thing. Like I tried to switch it to Microsoft Azure and switch it to other things, but I didn't like those. Still, I feel like I wanted to be a developer, but I was unable to be one, and I was unable to do projects on my own. I couldn't do that. Joined two cohorts of one boot camps, and it is a very good boot camp, but I couldn't finish it because of my work pressure, and I have also some family issues. But I think this is the pretty much it. I want to do something with the JavaScript thing. I want to do the coding, but somehow I'm stuck at one point. I cannot finish it. I cannot make the project on my own, and I'm getting frustrated because uh, I need a job so that I can survive all the time. I live in New York City. My half of my family live in New York City and half in Bangladesh, and it's I have a big family I have to take care of. So sometimes I'm getting too much frustrated, but my career is going nowhere. So I'm getting stuck. One point I learned JavaScript from Free Code Camp and joined the boot camp, and I learned until React. I know the React pretty much, but I was unable to make a project. I switched to Microsoft Azure, but I was unable to find a good job. So that's I need some advice what to do and what not to, what I'm doing wrong, and what I can do right in this situation.
So, lot to cover on that, just one aspect, right? And so, my first question to you is, you're saying two different things to me, right? So, you're saying that you tried to learn JavaScript for 3 years, right? And
Yes.
you were unable to do so. But then you say when it comes to React, you know pretty much everything. These are two different items. Like, either you can learn enough about JavaScript, or you're having trouble, or you know everything about React and you're good to go. Uh, my experience says that anybody that feels like they know everything about React doesn't know anything about React. And the reason why I say that is I've been using React for what, 7 years? I don't know everything about React. So if I don't know
Well,
everything about React,
and I have a wrong sentence here because I don't know pretty much about React. It's like um, uh, I learned React a little bit, but I learned the JavaScript too. But I was unable to make any project with JavaScript, with React, everything. I was just it's like I feel like I have been in only HTML CSS developer. I couldn't go through that way to the JavaScript and to the React. That
okay,
point
I
I
got
was unable to go.
it. To be honest, this is not uncommon. The way that I explain this is HTML and CSS, very logical. You want to make a background red, you put in the command, your background is red. You want to make a button, you put in the command, you make a button. This all makes very logical sense. But then you go to JavaScript, and this is like this whole new way to approach problems that you've never approached it before. Because with HTML, CSS, you say, I want this to exist, it exists. With JavaScript, you're now going into a new realm of problem solving. Because when you go to a website, you're like, well, when you push this button, it's creating a command and it has to send this information somewhere. How is it sending it, and what is it doing with the info? There's so much more thought process that has to go into the action besides, I want this to exist, now it exists. And with the vast majority of beginners, this is where they all struggle with their first transition there. So let's start gauging where your skill level is, right? If I were to say, I want to make a to-do list application in with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Are you able to do that?
Um, I never tried it on my own. Seriously. So I feel like I have seen a lot of tutorials and I understand those, but I never tried to do on my own. I was scared that I will be not successful to make it with with JavaScript. So I didn't
Who
try it
cares if you're not successful with it? What's the problem with not being successful?
because it's like uh, I s- I work from I'm from a family where I have to take care of everything on my own. So mostly I work a lot. So I cannot skip working. I cannot take rest for another thing or for my hobbies or something. So sometimes I'm scared if I tried something different, I'll lose everything because if I lose a job, I cannot handle anything else. So most of the time, I live in a loophole. I feel like I'm always scared to do things differently. But uh, other than to-do list, I have tried calculators. I did small calculators. I followed a drum tutorial and I was able to do it. A small drum tutorial, so make some buttons and it creates the sounds and different sounds and different effects. I tried some carousel. I was able to do that. Yeah, I did those things with JavaScript.
So, my question to you is, do you think the first time that Beethoven ever touched the piano that he just made the best song in the world?
No.
He sucked.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Like it's impossible that you're just going to know everything. And the only way you can increase your skill set is to just fail constantly. And through each failure, you're going to end up learning something. And so, and the other thing is, for me, for example, when it comes to learning how to code, right? I have never been the type of person where it's like, oh, I just want to learn this for the sake of learning it. I need a purpose to learn my things, right? And so often what I'll do is maybe I'm learning some new concepts. I'm like, I need to find a way I can use this for this really to make sense to me. So I'll build something purposely trying to use those concepts. So if I get stuck, I learn more. I start going down this path. I start researching a lot, and it teaches me so much about this thing, right? If you're intimidated to even build the thing because you feel like you're going to fail, it's not going to go well. So here's my guarantee to you, Hayat. If you want to get a job in tech, you're going to fail at least 500 times. Surprise. Now that you know that you're going to go fail 500 times, go fail the 500 times. You need to fail at least 500 times, okay?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll never be employable. This is my guarantee. So now go fail those 500 times so you can at least do something with it. I'm a very big believer in fail, pivot, grow. Fail where on whatever it is, whether it's a goal, whether it's a technique, whether it's a concept, pivot to where you need to be and then grow in that environment. But if you keep holding yourself back, you can't even succeed at this point. It's a very big blocker. And so we often talk about like tutorial hell. I don't even think you have that because you're not even going past the stage of building something with a tutorial. You're just not even building the thing. And so for me, um, there's a very big distinction for when it comes to concepts and building that, for example, you mentioned projects that are like a drum builder. I think that's really cool. To me, that would never be a full project. That would be a component of a project, or like a carousel. A
Yeah.
carousel is a component of an overall project. We need to get you to a stage where you're building an actual overall project, so that way we can say, okay, now we have something to show for this effort. Okay,
Yeah.
you're, in my opinion, you're still at what the very beginning stages of development too. So like there's so many other levels that this will go to. And so you really need to kind of remove ego and idea, because not wanting to fail at something really is ego at the end of the day, right? And that's not a good thing or bad thing. It's just in our minds. Just get rid of it and just move past it, because um every single successful developer that I've ever met in my life, working at like the largest organizations in the world to working at the smallest organizations in the world, they've all fell on their face repeatedly, or they all have moments where they don't know something. And so for you right now, you're based on what you're describing to me, you're still at the very, very beginning stages of development, which is not bad. But now, if we can kind of be laser focused for about 6 months, I think you can be at a stage that you're very, very proud of. As of right now, you're holding yourself back from that. So we need to stop doing that. Um, Based on the projects that you've kind of described, uh, the drum, calculator, or the carousel, we have to build a lot of things to kind of progress forward. And so, what I would try and have you do is build something as simple as humanly possible, just to see where your skill level is. So, what I would say, and one challenge that I would give you, like, are you familiar with how to use an API?
Yes.
Perfect. Have you tried to build a weather app on your own?
Weather app. I tried, but I did not. I was unable to do it. Yeah.
Okay, why were you unable?
It's like I skip it time to time. Sometimes I started something, but I didn't finish it, and I got stuck. And somehow 2 3 days passed, and I didn't finish it again. So that's how I really, when I stuck, I'm good at searching. I'm finding the solutions at least in on Google if I don't find it by myself. But sometimes I just skip it. It's a habit I think I built up. I didn't understand a lot of things until I talked to you. Today I found that I'm scared. I told that sentence, but after I told you that, I felt like today I felt I was just expressing that I'm scared. Today I was like feeling I'm skipping those things. I didn't feel those things before.
To be honest, this is not uncommon in a lot of these calls. Sometimes just talking it out makes you realize it. And so some people, they bottle up a lot. They don't talk about it. They keep it quiet. Maybe they're afraid to say it out loud. Maybe they're afraid to look weak in front of themselves, their family members, etc. This is a very, very, at least for me, it's a common conversation just because of how many times I've done it at this point. So don't feel bad or anything. But now that you've identified the problem, it allows it to become easier to solve that problem, right? And so I think here that's kind of where the focus should probably be. Um, what I'll say, since you've said you either skipped it or you've had trouble with it, here's going to be a set of tasks that I'll give you. Number one, you need to get an API for a weather app, right? And what I'll say, the first level of this task, the only thing you want to do is after getting this API, is take the response from the API, whatever it is, and just display the entire JSON text on the web browser. That should be your goal. You don't have to make it beautiful. You don't have to stylize it. You don't have to make colors. You just want to take whatever that response is from the API and show it in text form on the screen. If I were to give you that task, would you know how to do that?
Yeah, I know that. I did it using React, but not in other app. I did it using uh, there's a uh, there's some free API like a Kanye West codes.
Hmm.
I did these codes that API and displayed those codes in our browser.
Yeah, perfect. So with step one now being done, I want you to progress to step two in saying within this API data, I just want to display one of these entries. Now I want you to figure out logically, especially using JavaScript and everything, or React, whatever you want to use, how do you go ahead and just display that one field, getting rid of all the other text? You still don't have to stylize it, you don't have to make it beautiful, nothing. And then the step three of this is saying, okay, now that have this text, let me now stylize this to the point where I can show the degrees for this location. What I've just described isn't necessarily only the steps I want you to take. This is breaking down the problem into steps.
Okay.
This is like the very, very, very early stages of becoming a developer. How do you break down the problem into steps to where you can say, this is how I solve this? Because when it comes to a lot of beginners, They're like, oh, I need to go ahead and build this whole website for this car dealership. And it's like, wow, this is such an intimidating thing when I think about this at first level, right? But then it's like, well, a car dealership, what does a car dealership website look like? We have a homepage, probably has a carousel at the top, something you're familiar with, right? And then each car that it lists, it has a carousel for all the photos of that car, right? And that has some details. Now we're starting to break it down to where it's like, okay, I know how to approach this. I know how to deal with this. And as you start breaking it down further and further and further, you start realizing what actually is a car website. It's just a bunch of components or a bunch of individual features all attached together. And so it's a lot more digestible and solvable than just saying, I need a whole car dealership website. This is such a big project. And you start staying away from it. Our
Right.
focus now has to be how do we go further into it and solve these issues as opposed to skipping over it. But I will say, if you've been learning this for 3 years, you need a lot more accountability with yourself to say, no matter what, for the next hour, I'm going to do this, right? And what I would say is, have you ever tried to do the challenge 100 days of code?
Yeah, I tried. It's like the most I could do 32 days.
Okay. So you can't commit to yourself for 100 days. Is that what you're saying? Like you can't keep a single commitment to yourself for 100 days?
Yeah, I couldn't. It's my fault, I think. It's There's no excuse. Uh, I couldn't do it.
So what are we going to do to fix that?
Just doing that. Really, there's nothing special. I think I have to do that. If I want to do that, I have to do that. I just not to skip it again. I tried it 3 to 4 times, and but at most I did 32 days. And also, I did another thing, like I was learning Spanish, and so I did that streak like almost 69 days. But after that, I skipped it again. So that was my um, most achievement, I think, accomplishment, what I could do at that point. And I have a question. It's
Hmm.
like, how did you worked at a gas station, right?
Right.
When almost 100 hours. And I think right now you also work sometimes maybe 100 hours or more than that, right? So
Right.
how do you manage to work in different things? Like I work in a burger place, and also I work in a diagnostic center. These two place two different works, and so I want to do coding. So how do you set up? How did you start coding, and how did you manage that?
So there's like, when you ask these questions, this is a question I've been asked a lot, right? And oftentimes when I'm asked this question, it's almost as if you're trying to put whatever I did as a measurement of success against what you're doing. And everyone is different, right? Every single person operates at a different capacity, at a different level. I don't want you to judge your success or failures based on abilities that I'm able to do, right? Or anybody else for that matter. You really need to start focusing more on what does Hyatt need to do in order to get XYZ achieved. And for example, when you say that you could only code for 32 days in a row, right? There's no way I could ever limit myself to 32 days. And so for me, I've been broke and I've had money. When I was broke and I realized I could be at a stage where I could have money, there was literally nothing in the universe that could stop me. Nothing. And so I think that's what you need to start putting in your head. And this doesn't even apply to coding, if I'm being honest with you. For me, it's like once I know that I have a chance to change something in my life, whether it's health, income, knowledge, success, relationships, why am I going to allow anything to stop me from succeeding in that? Like, I'm married, right? Like, why would I allow anything to stop my marriage from being successful? Why would I stop anything from allowing me to be a great father? Why would I allow anything to stop me from, like, right now I'm losing weight, right? Why would I allow anything to stop me from losing this weight right now? I'm going to the gym, I'm eating right, I've fixed my diet. Even right now before this call, I jumped on the treadmill. Like, why would I stop myself from that? Like, the thing I want you to start doing is understanding two things. Number one, it's very, very important to find, no matter how chaotic your day is, or week is, or month is, you have to realize that you are a priority in your own life. A job can tell you what they'll pay you, but only you can dictate your worth, right? And the only way that you get to dictate your worth is by adding skill set that the marketplace finds valuable. Otherwise, and this is a quote that was said to me many, many years ago. I was working in like a warehouse kind of place, hard manual labor. I was killing myself. And we were laying asphalt as a part of that, right? And I remember telling my boss, his name was Mike, and I said, Mike, if we do this process instead, I think we could save our back a lot of pain. And you know what he said to me? He said, "Oh, Danny, I didn't realize we hired you for your mind. I thought we hired you for your back. I thought we hired you for your back. I can't believe you're thinking when I hired you for your back." And I said, "You know what? You're right." And I stayed quiet the rest of the day. But that's when I realized the people that work with their backs are the hardest working people, in my opinion, but they're often the least paid people in the room. So if I'm going in a room filled with 100 people and I'm working with my back, more than likely I'm going to be one of the least paid people there. So what can I do to match the skill level of everyone else that isn't killing themselves? They get to sit in air conditioning all day, every day. But here I am dying with sweat. My skin is chafing. My shirt is covered in sweat. And I'm just killing myself. And so the only way that I was able to do that is to start prioritizing me within my day. And so maybe it's just spending 1 hour every single day, no matter what, dedicated to you. Meaning for this hour, at this time, it's a non-negotiable. You put it on your calendar, you put it on your clock, you put it as a reminder, an alarm clock, whatever it is. For this hour, no matter what, unless God himself comes and pulls me out of it, this is the hour that's dedicated to me every single day.
Yeah.
That's it. With this 1 hour every single day. And if you do that and you can stay consistent for more than 30 days, you can stay consistent for more than 69 days, you might see something pretty magical happen. But if you make this as, I want to spend this hour, instead of I must spend this hour, the things that you want to do are negotiable. Meaning, I don't feel like it today. I'm not going to do it. But I guarantee you, every single day that you're supposed to go to that burger shop, you show up, right?
Yeah.
Even on the days you don't feel like it, you show up, right?
Yeah, of course.
Even on
I
the
have
days when
to.
you're like, damn, I'm so tired of going to work, you still show up, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a must. It's a non-negotiable. It's the thing that you said, I have to do this thing even if I don't feel like doing it. But why is it the things that you know can make your life improve? Even learning Spanish, there's a quality of life improvement that you can get from that. Even from a work standpoint, you know how many companies out there are like, I wish we could have bilingual speakers that speak Spanish? You could be more valuable in the marketplace even if you learn that. You won't do it. Or if you learn how to code. And here's the thing, even when it comes to learning how to code, maybe you learn how to code and you don't even get a job in tech. What's stopping you from starting a service where you teach people how to make the best burger in the world?
Yeah.
What if you started a service where it's like, you know what, I learned Spanish too and I learned how to code. Let me teach people how to learn Spanish the way that I learned it. Boom, you've got an entire language learning service that you could charge people for. There's so many ways to monetize this skill that you're holding yourself back. But the other thing too is like, do you know how many businesses exist in New York City that need websites that don't have them, or they have terrible executions of websites? Like we're talking like dry cleaners, gyms, and they all spend money. You know, for a long time, I was making tons of websites for dry cleaners, like $1,000 a pop. It's like you could easily do that on the side, making money. The very first website that I ever sold in my life was to a Mexican restaurant, and that was before I ever had my very first job in tech, and that was $1,800. It's like you could make this money without having the title of a software engineer, even though like obviously that's the goal. Don't get me wrong, but like there's many ways where you could be improving your life by having this skill. And what's funny is right now as we speak, I'm doing a cohort in Dallas, Texas, right?
Yeah.
It's the largest cohort we've ever done. We have almost 150 software developers in there. Do you know how many of them came in not knowing how to do like the confidence to build like larger enterprise level scale projects, to where now they're like, I have more confidence than ever, to where two of them on the side decided to get a client out of nowhere, and now they're building a website for them. It's like they never thought they could do this, and in 3 weeks that whole idea has changed. But what did it come down to? They were consistent, and they started realizing what's possible, what's there, what's available. I think this is a very, very big thing that you need to focus on. And I guarantee you, if you really go in with a very broad mindset of no matter what life throws at me, I'm going to be consistent, I think things will change. One extra exercise that I'm going to have you do, I'm a very big believer in this, is writing down your goals. And some goals, I want them to be very, very large, scary goals, right? And some goals, I want them to be like very small things that you know you can achieve, right? Maybe it's
Okay.
like for the next 2 weeks, for an hour a day, every single day, I'm going to make myself a priority, whether that's learning how to code, learning Spanish, reading a book of some value. Something is going to be there that I'm doing. And I want you to write them all on index cards. Each goes on a different index card. And so to give you an idea, I've been doing this for years. Right now, between this monitor that I'm looking at you at, this camera that is recording me, there's a wall right here. And on this wall, I have roughly 22 index cards on it right now. And
Wow.
so every single time I have an achievement of one of those goals, I pull the index card down. And now some of these goals, I'll be honest, they scare the absolute hell out of me. And some like really get me excited. But that the ones that scare me really keep me dedicated to like, okay, I have to achieve this thing. I got to do this. To give you an idea, one of the goals that I had last year was I want to do a tech conference, and I was terrified of this. And then I couldn't shake the idea that I finally wrote it down on an index card. Once I write it down, this thing is going to happen no matter what. I can't allow anything to distract it. It has to happen. But the reason why I like it written down and on this wall is every day I sit at this desk. So now my goals are facing me. It's not like a thought in my head. It's like it's right there. And so with it being right there, why am I not doing something to get a little bit closer to it? And so now I am in a conversation with myself to where it's like, oh, maybe I want to watch Netflix for like 8 hours. I look at my goals and I'm like, have I done anything to get close to them? If the answer to that is yes, man, I'm watching Netflix with zero guilt. But if the answer to that is no, it's like, you know what? Let me watch Netflix for 3 hours instead and spend these other 5 hours trying to get closer to this thing. And it keeps me very accountable to me. Because here's the reality. If you work at that burger restaurant for the rest of your life, whose life changes or whose life is affected by that? You.
Me.
Nobody in the world really cares if you succeed or fail. If you succeed and you have money, people will be interested, but they don't really care. Only you. You owe this life to you, and then we go back to dust, man. So, are you going to actually give yourself the ability to be like, you know what? This is my one life. That's it. There's nothing else that is given to me that I have control over. Are we going to be in circumstances that we want to live in, or are we going to be in circumstances that the universe dictated and we're just going to stick to it no matter what, and we're just not going to succeed? And there's no wrong answer. I mean, it's going to be your life at the end of the day. You can have as many regrets as you want, or you can have as many successful achievements as you want. But the only thing that separates someone who's successful with someone who is unsuccessful is they just kept trying at it a little bit longer and things started panning out. Because I've never seen people get lucky sitting on the couch. I've only seen people get lucky when they are actively trying to get somewhere and things start panning out that way.
Yeah, I got it, I think.
Yeah. So I always try to stop these calls with a couple things that I think are actionable.
Okay.
I think we're way past that at this point, right? Like I think you have a lot of things that you need to be doing that you know now. So what I would like you to do is once this call is over, I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to actually like don't even get up at the computer wherever you are. Just sit down and cut off all the noise around you for a moment and just start asking yourself the questions that you don't want to answer. Like, why am I holding myself back? What can I do to get past this? Here's the goal of I want to have, let's say our ultimate goal is to finally get to the stage where we build a project that we could see an actual business using, right? What are the steps that you see yourself taking to actually get to that stage where you can build that project? Like write it down. It doesn't matter if you're right, it doesn't matter if you're wrong, but write down, like literally break it down into like 20 steps. What are the actual steps that you need to take? And now start taking each one of those steps as like, all right, this is the first goal, this is the second goal, this is the third. Like what do I need to achieve to get to here? I think that needs to be a focal point. The other thing that I want you to really do is do those exercises that we said earlier, like get an API, display the text, et cetera, et cetera. Do those things. The last thing I want you to really look at is like, what does success actually look like to you? Like, what does success feel like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? Um, Figure out all those senses of what success truly looks like to you, and start breaking that down as well. Because a lot of us we say like, okay, I want to be a junior dev, right? For me, I never ever had the goal of being a junior dev. A lot of like juniors, it seems like that's the goal. But the reality is, I just wanted to be the actual best developer that I could potentially and possibly be. If that means being the best, obviously junior dev is a natural stepping stone of that progression. So junior was never the goal. Being the best developer around, that was the goal. And so for me, that's like, what does success look like? And if that's success, think a little bit bigger, and then whatever you're thinking of will naturally fall in that line. I would keep that as a very big focal point. The other thing is, you need to find out whatever the hour is every single day, and it cannot change for the next 100 days, no matter what. 100 days, by the way, is like it's an achievement, but it's not even the biggest achievement you can do. It's just like the first step in like really being consistent with yourself. 100 days from here to 100 days from now, look on a calendar, count it out, and write it down. And no matter what, for the next 100 days, Hayat is a priority in Hayat's life. Simple as that.
Yeah, I never did that before. It's like I never did prioritize my time really, and my wife always
Yeah.
telling me you're just prioritizing other people, not
Mm.
you, not us, but you're prioritizing only the people outside from your home.
Yeah.
It
To
is
be honest
true.
with
I
you,
never.
it's not even just you. A lot of people do that. And what's funny is, as parents, as husbands, as um, people that are trying to grow, we often do that. And we constantly, like, what's one thing that I used to say to myself once I realized it? I'm really good at making other people money. I would constantly tell myself that at work. Like, I see my boss, I used to have a joke with people, but it was a joke to remind myself that I'm a joke to me. And he had 6 cars, right? He's stupid rich for so much money. And I remember a customer coming in, and the customer was admiring his car. And I said, I need you to spend more money in the store. He only has 6 cars. Do you not feel bad that he doesn't have 7? He doesn't have a car for every single day of the week. Customer laughed. My boss laughed. I laughed. But in reality, I said, I'm so good at making this man money because he's a
Really.
priority to me, instead of me being a priority to myself.
It's really ridiculous. I never watched this in the mirror. It's I was never a priority to me. That's what I was doing all my life. Uh,
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in identifying these things. Now, here's the thing: I don't want you to kill yourself, right? Like, I don't want you to just take on so much effort and work that you burn out. There has to be a balance. And so, in these 100 days, if you really feel like I'm so physically and mentally exhausted, you need to take a day off, take a day off, dude. But you need to come back. That's the big thing here. Like, the return is the big thing. But I will say, don't confuse you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone with I'm beyond exhausted. If you feel uncomfortable, you're in the right area. You should feel uncomfortable because you're doing something you've never done before. But if you're feeling like physically and mentally exhausted to where like you feel like you're going to break, this is a different conversation. I think your wife sees something in you. And so the best thing you could ever do is give her a reason to be proud and celebrate your success. So it's time to do the Hyatt. Like, 2025, let's make this our focus, that this is the year where we excel in one way or another. Now, 2026 could be the year where we're like, big changes are going to come, but it will only happen if we are very honest with the effort that we put in. If you put in the bare minimum, you cannot be surprised with the results. But, and here's the other thing, if you put in the absolute maximum, you cannot assume the entire world and universe will shift to where you want it. Remember something, and this is, we can end on this one. In order to become an English teacher, just knowing English doesn't make you an English teacher.
No.
It's a prerequisite to enter the conversation of being an English teacher.
Yes.
Knowing how to code doesn't guarantee you a job as a software developer. It is a prerequisite needed in order to enter the conversation. So by learning how to code at a high level, you are just now getting to the stage where you can enter the conversation. It doesn't guarantee success. And so from after we get to that stage of we've built a lot of projects and we're very proud of this and we can build things that we can talk about. And the biggest thing is we've built a final like big project at a very large scale that is very, very technical, that solves a problem, it delivers a solution, and it allows you to talk about that solution in a technical and non-technical way. That is when you're at a stage where you can start entering conversations. Right now, based on our conversation, you are far from that, which is not a bad thing. But now it's like really great that we have identified everything that is going wrong. So now you can start solving those problems. If you came in here and like everything was fantastic and great, obviously like we would have bigger issues, right? But like it's no, like we know what's wrong. So now we can attack each one individually and solve it. I really, really think, based on your responses, you are going to be okay. So really put forth the effort. Do those tasks that I gave you at the end of this. And the second thing that I'll ask you to do, that was the first. The second thing is, if they haven't already, TopMate is going to ask you to review this call. Please do so. It'll help me out a lot. It goes a long way. And I see that we've recorded this call. I feel like this call would be really, really good for a lot of people. Would you feel comfortable if I were to share parts of this call online? I can hide your face or your info if you want me to.
It's okay. You don't have to. You can do whichever you want. I'm comfortable with that.
I think this can really help a lot of folks because if I'm being honest, there are so many people that are just like you in a very exact situation, and I think identifying this will go a really, really long way. With them especially. So as long as you feel comfortable with that, and obviously it's recording it so that way we know, but I'll share that with others because maybe it can help some people.
Yeah, of course. And the last thing I wanted to say is like I'm following Quincy Larson and you for a long time. So it's like I always feel like you two guys are my mentor for my life and my coding. Not for the coding, also for my life, because I was always following what you were doing, what Quincy Larson have done. It felt like my age, my everything matches with you guys. So thank you for giving me the chance to talk with you today. I'm very proud of it. I could get the chance to talk to you, and I'll put my best effort, and I want to say my wife that I'm doing something she's proud of, at least, and I'm also proud of.
Look, today, go in that kitchen, go dance with your wife, have a good time, right? Let her know, maybe take her out for a good meal or something like that, right? Just have a good memory and then say, honey, the next 100 days I'm dedicating to myself, this 1 hour a day, I'm going to take it very, very seriously.
Yeah. I'll do.
And be very focused, laser focused. Give me a reason to celebrate you, Hayat. That's all I ask. All right, brother?
Thank you so much.
See you, man. Bye.
See you.